We're going to move on to session 5. This is our highlights from the Innovation Accelerator that we've been running. And it is my pleasure to introduce Dmytro Pokhylko. Sorry, Dmytro Pokhylko, Director of the Columbia Lab to Market Accelerator Network, and Austin Flon, IBM Ventures, New York City Innovation Hub Leader. So I'm excited to have you guys talk about all of the great work that's been going on, and over to you.
Great, thanks Sharon. Can you guys hear me? Great. Hey Austin, great to see you. So today we have this dual role of being both an interviewer and an interviewee, where I will ask you questions and you will ask me questions, and then we'll share information relevant to our respective teams. Should be fun. Let's kick this off with some of the introductions. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure thing, Dmytro. So hi everyone, I'm Austin Flon. I work in IBM Ventures as the Innovation Hub Leader for the New York City area. So my job is to connect with the startup ecosystem, which is inclusive of the venture capital firms, universities like Columbia University, accelerators, and of course the startups themselves. And what I'm doing is really looking for great new innovative companies that are working on the technologies of the future. And then to see how IBM could work with those companies and accelerate what they are building.
Great. And I'm Dmytro Pokhylko. I lead Columbia Lab to Market Accelerator Network, which as part of Columbia Technology Ventures provides a comprehensive support system to innovators at Columbia Labs and those of our academic partners to help them validate and scale up their ventures. I'm very excited to be here and showcase one of those programs, the Columbia-IBM Launch Accelerator. So just to provide some background on this, the accelerator is one of the 3 pillars of the broader partnership between Columbia and IBM, and the other 2 pillars being education and research. And today, earlier, we've heard from a lot of people who worked in each of those tracks. And then the goal of the accelerator itself is to make the most of what academia and industry have to offer to help most innovative teams, early stage ventures in big data, AI, ML, and other areas of deep tech to validate and launch their ventures. And we do this through education, mentorship, and other elements to really help them get off the ground and see if there's a potential to improve this. So in a couple of minutes, Austin, let's spend some time to dive deeper into some of those elements that contribute to the program's success. When you and I spoke about this, we sort of realized that while there's a lot that goes into the success of these programs and setting them up and running them, it kind of comes down to 4 main categories: education, community, infrastructure, and then additional resources, right? So the thing is, we cannot do this in our vacuum, and I would argue that it's probably not ideal for the industry to also do this in silo. It does take 2 to tango, and it does take this digital village to make a success out of the program. So let's go through each of these elements and then give a flavor of each of our sides contributed to this program. So on the education front, for us, it mainly comes down to 2 key elements. One is Steve Blank's Lean Launchpad methodology that pushes teams to take off their brilliant researcher hats and assuming that because they have an innovation, it will automatically become a successful business. Our job is to break down that assumption and push them to get out of building and explore who their customers are, who really cares, who doesn't care, assess the size of the market, and really fine-tune the value proposition and product market fit. And then we supplement that with business workshops, that practical advice on how to set up your venture, how to set up your equity table, and other elements that are more on the practical operational support. And I guess sort of because of the partnership with IBM, we were able to add another unique element to this program, And Austin, can you give us a flavor of what that entailed?
Yeah, sure. So first off, IBM takes education and skilling very seriously. And for our partnership with Columbia, we designed a series of technical intensives for the Accelerator program. So this consisted of 3 blockchain intensives, and it started with just the fundamentals from a blockchain 101 lecture all the way to best practices and lectures, best practices and lessons learned, when developing an actual blockchain network. So through these sessions of education, the teams got to learn how to get started with code patterns, getting set up on IBM Cloud credits and exploring the cloud catalog, how to think about risk when building a blockchain network, what even the hyperledger is, how to leverage it, also like how to scale and extract business value from a blockchain network, and so much more. So what made these technical intensives really valuable, though, was the people. And Dmytro, if you could actually flip to the next slide.
Yep.
At IBM, we ensured we had the right experts aligned to the partnership, so both from the technical and business points of view. So in each of those technical intensives, they were led by different industry experts from IBM, and that included folks like chief technology officers, solution architects. We had distinguished engineers, and that was to cover the more technical aspects of the lessons. And then we also had senior managing consultants, strategists, and even a general manager leading some of these sessions to cover more operational and business side of the house, like how to structure a corporate partnership, for instance, which is really important for these startups to learn. So we've also spanned a wide breadth of topics to help the teams learn as much as they could to really help accelerate their efforts. And the technical intensives were really just one part of that value that the IBM experts were bringing with them to the startups. There was also an ongoing mentorship relationship, as well as open office hours that allowed the teams to leverage the IBM experts throughout the whole process and helping them address problems and get guidance on different issues. So I want to give a quick shout out just to all the IBMers that are on the phone here, that volunteered their time to help make these startups successful. So just a big thank you for doing that. I know the teams really appreciated all the help you provided. So Dmytro, to pass it back to you, what does the sense of community look like from the perspective of Columbia University?
Yeah, and before I jump into that, it's just fond memories of having sessions when we could have them in person at IBM campuses, by the Union Square and Watson offices. And you definitely see, even in virtual sessions, you definitely see both excitement on our side from the founders to be able to tap this well of expertise, but also I would argue from the IBMers who almost like reminisce, being in their shoes, like of the founders, and like really feeling, their fears and just kind of like really helping them guide through some of these technical issues, but also just like as leaders and founders. So those were always like fun engagements, as you mentioned, not just the lecture that goes one way, but two-way exchange during office hours, or just like email exchange. And then more broadly, beyond IBM, we're lucky to be in the city of New York that has a robust tech community and entrepreneurial community. And through Columbia Lab to Market Accelerator Network, we're able to reach out and align a number of mentors for each of the teams. And those mentors are able to engage either through something as simple as like a Slack channel to provide like very targeted support and advice, to hosting an office hour here and there, to having like a proper, very engaged mentor-mentee relationship with some of the startups. And we feel that that's a very important element of the program, because others are relatively straightforward while important to line up, but mentorship is something that sets us apart. And then oftentimes overlooked, the peer network. Founders are part of the cohort with other brilliant founders that are in similar shoes. And the job of a founder, especially of an early stage founder and pre-seed founder, can be pretty intimidating and it can be pretty lonely. And for them, while they're getting mentorship and they're looking up to some of the experts that they hope to become at some point in the future, also looking at their peers during the sessions and during the happy hours that we would put as part of this program, it's a great opportunity for them to develop camaraderie and some of the commiseration as well, that, you know, and learn and support from each other. So that is another element that definitely contributed to the uniqueness of this program. So moving on, I guess, beyond the community, the infrastructure, and it comes down to a bit of nuts and bolts of L2M being able to set up an infrastructure that identifies and brings in key elements that, you know, contribute to the success of the program, that, you know, the mentors, the resources, the proper applications, so that we're tapping the wide community of high quality founders, and then we engage them properly and we give them the right tools to validate you know, their ideas. And then Austin, in terms of the infrastructure, what are some of the tools that are available that help the founders get a window into the ecosystem of IBM? Could you give us a sense?
Yeah, sure. So IBM was able to offer the startups a set of perks, and that included up to $120,000 of free IBM cloud credits. So this allowed the teams to get access to cutting edge artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data management software technologies from the vast IBM cloud catalog. On top of that, they were able to get assistance really in the use of these tools to get them started, how to leverage them best, and just cut down some of that friction in the beginning of using something new. And this became a really great gateway for the teams to build on top of the IBM technical ecosystem, really without any of those prohibitive costs or barriers.
Yeah, and those things can be pretty taxing on someone who's not fully funded. So being able to tap into this and having the guidance into how to best tap and not be overwhelmed by just like the plethora of tools, but some of those that would be the best fit was definitely like a lot of help to the participating teams. And then just moving on, like, of course, it doesn't stop there, right? Like, you need additional support, and the program provides support, you know, to funding support as a stipend to cover operational expenses during and after the program, right? Like during the incorporation, you know, some of the conference attendance, some of the front end and back end development. This is something that we help them support so that they are not, you know, held back as they are validating their ventures. And then after graduation, it doesn't stop there, right? Like, it's like we are exposing teams to various opportunities for funding. In fact, today, Columbia Tech Ventures is hosting a workshop on SBIR, STTR funding for our faculty, and several of launch teams are in attendance because they would be a good fit for using their technical skills and research and then kind of like validating on that. And beyond that, it's you know, like, it's additional warm introductions to investors or industry partners. So that's something that the work continues even after they leave the bootcamp phase. And Austin, given your like experience engaging startups, how does IBM prefer to work with early stage ventures? And what are some of the pieces of advice would you give to the teams on best positioning themselves to deepening and developing partnership with IBM? Because it's not a simple process as one might assume.
Yeah, so you know, let me just say, through the IBM Ventures group, we're always looking for new innovative companies to work with. And I'll say, as your startup continues to grow, show traction in the market, and have, you know, a unique differentiator in what you're building, we are going to be really keen to talk to you and partner with a company like yours. And just to give an example, as a relationship grows with IBM, and you know, where we see strategic fit for both your company and IBM, we even have the opportunity and ability to invest in your startup to really further accelerate your development efforts. And, what makes an attractive partnership opportunity for IBM? Really broadly speaking, it's going to be companies right now that are embracing open source technologies and companies that subscribe to the thesis that a hybrid multi-cloud environment is needed to satisfy the needs of modern enterprise clients. So, one thing we'd love to see is startups and companies that are building on top of Red Hat OpenShift. And by doing this, it actually makes it much easier for you to partner with us and actually just plug right into our ecosystem. So that's a bit of advice on, kind of high level what we're thinking and what we're looking for, but also how best to position yourself.
Yeah, and I remember that during the sessions, during the intensives, just kind of encouraging the startups to understand the mindset of the corporate partners with whom they're trying to engage, not just being one-sided.
Exactly.
Really, and you, industry, partner, figure out how to partner with me. Like, I think having the awareness of some of the tools and some of the priorities and limitations, frankly, on the corporate side, would help develop and deepen those relationships. Okay, so this is great, and I agree in terms of it always helps to be focusing on areas that are of high priority to the industry partners. And funnily enough, we looked at today's topics a few days ago, and we realized that each of them has multiple teams in the previous cohort, so this year's cohort, that worked on some of these areas today. In security and privacy, we have Alinea, and I'll talk about that team in a second, and Spruce and Fathom and many others. Carbon footprint, is a big topic, ended up being, and policy issues and supply chain management. All of those areas, even though it started with blockchain and then broadened into deep tech, you really see how those sort of technical tools could be applied to various areas of business and societal issues. So very happy to see this alignment. And also, there are definitely other teams that focus on cloud and AI and ML tools. So it looks like there's a lot of alignment to keep exploring deeper. Okay, so now that we established generally, the theoretical aspects of, the key elements of setting up, the program and running the programs, let's go into the exciting part of giving concrete examples of teams that went into these programs and benefited from both the academic and the industry side. I selected somewhat arbitrarily, a couple of teams that I would like to highlight. So I'll just go through a couple of them relatively quickly. So we start with Sunan Iyer from PRadospix, our year one cohort team. He studied computer science at Columbia Engineering and developed robust computer vision tools that he wanted to apply this idea in dispute resolutions for product distribution. And during the program, he was able to tap IBM's Food Trust team for advice. And then he went on to participate in additional programs and accelerators to help him fine-tune the value proposition. And today, he has several live pilots with some of the largest produce distributors in North America, and is gearing up for public rollout by the year end, right? So an example of something that's super technical on the computer vision, broaden the focus and some of the business tools, and then actually apply it on the ground or relatively in the strawberry fields. Next up are Alinea Invest, and it's an amazing team led by Eve Halimi and Anam Lahani, and they offer guidance and education to people who may be intimidated by getting involved with blockchain and crypto products. This oftentimes is something that's all over the news, but once you get involved, this is something that's not an easy nut to crack, and they participated in the program and leverage IBM technical expertise in identity management and how you set up networks. They continue to fine-tune their customer discovery and decided to focus specifically on Gen Zers. And then after graduating the program last year, they went on to participate in the winter class of Y Combinator of this year. and raised a successful seed round of $2 million. Like right now, they are live, they're SEC registered, and they are rapidly expanding their user base. So if you want to learn more about crypto tools and products and educational materials about that world of investing without costing you anything in commission, definitely check out Alinea. And Eve and Halimi are like amazing founders in there. Next up, we have Tensorplace, which was founded by Jaydev Shah, who studies computer science at Columbia Engineering and has built an open marketplace geared toward AI and ML code. He built a prototype on the, as you mentioned, Austin, the initial allotment of cloud credits, and then went on to expand his team and have it distributed across the globe. He's in India, in America, and a couple of cities in America, recruited dozens of academic ambassadors to encourage students to contribute their code to the platform. And since graduating the program, he's expanded the product based on the extended allotments of computing credits from IBM, and is rolling out in a couple of months on the US and global market. And last but not the least, we have Local Civics, which is founded by Beverly Leon at Columbia Business School from our latest cohort. It's an amazing team here that bridges the gap of civic education and leverages technical tools, gamification practices, and robust economic educational content. Beverly relentlessly focused on building out local civics on multiple fronts. She continued to validate original value propositions, Steve Blanks, and additional workshops, engaged with IBM technical experts, as well as its PTAC team, and also tapped many of the program's mentors to figure out how to break into this difficult market and heavily regulated market, but large and important one. And today she has engagement with over thousands of students. Multiple schools are using her platform to conduct their civics education, and she's generating over $130,000 in recurring revenue. So couldn't be more excited about this. And just to point out, Beverly and Local Civics is one of several examples of teams that develop and apply technical solutions to complex societal programs in climate change, in education, and community-based support networks, to robust tools to help diversity, equity, and inclusion. And these are just the teams from the IBM Columbia Launch Accelerator. So very, very happy and proud of these examples.
Yeah, Dmytro, thanks so much for sharing. All these great details on the success of these sample companies. I know it's just a few of them, but it's just so great to see that coming out of the Columbia-IBM Accelerator. So, is it right that you're also doing what IBM and Columbia is doing, but across a number of different verticals as well?
Yeah, we have, as part of the Columbia Lab to Market Accelerator Network, we apply this partnership model or framework across multiple verticals. And we have about a dozen of programs in life sciences and physical sciences, ranging from cybersecurity to cancer therapeutics. And I would like to say that it does work. And I feel that it's important to have the two sides of it, because oftentimes you see a program being developed in an academic silo, and then, as I mentioned, you fall into this trap that, something brilliant was invented, and then it just, never sees the light of day because there's no market discovery and customer discovery, or vice versa. Some of the corporate efforts might lack from the deep academic research aspect of it. So when you fuse the two together, you have higher opportunity to develop something really robust, really relevant to the market, and really something that would further the improvement of the societal issues, and to the point of furthering the mission of the fourth mission of the university. And at the bottom, you have some of the select stats that speak to the success of this approach. Over 400 teams went through our programs, and many of them, not everyone succeed, but that's not the goal. Just the nature of them being so early stage implies that many of them will fail, but many do continue and went on and did continue and went on to raise additional funding, and collectively over $200 million in funding that has been secured to continue validating and scaling up those teams. But as I mentioned, it's not just us though, right? Like Columbia is not unique in that respect in setting this up and applying this framework. Like I'm sure IBM has multiple programs of similar nature as well. Austin, what are some of them, if you could give us a sense?
Yeah, sure. So IBM has a number of accelerators, incubators, and programs that are really designed to help startups become successful. I'll give you a little bit of information about each of these, and I suggest anyone that is, building a company or thinking about starting one to really go check out any of these programs. So the IBM AlphaZone accelerators actually takes a deep approach to help build startups that are working on IBM technology. So through a 6-month program, they really aim to position your company to build a thriving partnership with IBM. And it's across all sorts of different kinds of technologies, with a focus on companies that have already had their first round of funding. So they're not at the very earliest stage. Then the IBM HyperProtect Accelerator is focused on companies that leverage sensitive information. Think PII, or personal identification information. And that's all around creating solutions for highly regulated industries. So that's in conjunction with IBM's HyperProtect program. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a product that we offer that helps protect data across the entire compute lifecycle, simply put. And we actually partnered with a really great firm, Village Capital, on this program to provide additional ecosystem development to the companies in the program. And I should say right now, the HyperProtect Accelerator is actually still accepting applications for its next cohort class for the next couple weeks. So for those interested, don't wait, go check it out sooner than later. But for both AlphaZone and HyperProtect, I should mention they're non-dilutive programs. They offer great go-to-market support, as well as mentorship across business and technical perspectives, as well as access to the IBM network. Great. Then on RI Hub, let me say a little bit about these bottom two as well. RI Hub is actually, it stands for Rhode Island Hub. It's a community of innovators, investors, and students that have great ideas and are looking to build them out into something real. So this is really more of an incubator from the earliest stage. And this was created by IBM, the state of Rhode Island, and Mass Challenge, which is another amazing accelerator where we all partnered to make this possible in downtown Providence, Rhode Island. And last, I'll mention our Startup at IBM program, which is really just the overarching program on how we work at IBM with startups. And benefits from this include the free access to IBM's entire vast catalog of offerings. That's the $120,000 of credits you'd heard me talk about before. But you could also get technical support from IBM architects and developers to get you through some of the roadblocks you might have and help you get certified, as well as even support marketing and sales enablement. So it's really just all around designed to make startups that work with IBM successful. That's our goal. So again, if any of you are interested in any of these programs, go take a look at them. I think we're posting the links in the chat, so you could find them there. But also, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn and you're building a company and you want to learn about how you can connect with IBM, feel free to connect with me through there as well.
Absolutely. And indeed, these are great opportunities for some of the later stage teams, but also some of the examples that you mentioned, startups with IBM can be tapped by anyone who's even pre-formation to later stage through us. So to Austin points, if you'd like to learn more about these programs or about any of the Columbia L2M programs, please do let us know, find us, or drop us a note, and Alexis will share information. So happy to follow up with additional with information. It looks like we're just at our time limit. Austin, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and more generally for being such a great partner in this exciting programs, both you and IBM. So really look forward to deepening our partnership and launching more amazing teams in the future and having highlights in the coming months or years of we did touch that team, we did help them get off the ground, and look at how proud we are of them. I believe we're just at our time, so there's no time to follow up on the Q&A. So Sharon, back to you.
Hey, Dmytro, Austin, thank you so much. I am always just amazed what our students achieve and accomplish.